Nurse Tatenda knew the night was wrong the moment she stepped into the corridor. The fluorescent lights flickered above her, buzzing softly like insects trapped in glass. Each flicker felt delayed, as if the light was deciding whether to stay alive or die. The walls were stained and cracked, paint peeling in long strips that reminded her of dried skin. The corridor smelled old, not just old forgotten. She stood at the far end of the hallway, holding her clipboard close to her chest. The cold blue glow of the hospital lights washed over her face, making her reflection in the glass look pale and unfamiliar. The silence was too heavy. Hospitals were never truly quiet. There were always footsteps, coughing, distant voices. But tonight, the silence pressed in on her ears until she could hear her own heartbeat. 7 p.m., the start of her shift. Tatenda took one step forward. The sound echoed much longer than it should have. She stopped walking. The echo stopped too late. She turned slowly. Nothing was behind her. She told herself it was just nerves. Night shifts always played tricks on the mind. She had heard that 100 times. She walked again, forcing her breathing to stay steady. Halfway down the corridor, she noticed a door she did not remember seeing before. It stood slightly apart from the others, the metal surface scratched and darkened with age. A small metal tag hung from it, swinging gently though there was no wind. She stepped closer. The words were faded but still clear. "Patient 44, do not move." Her fingers tightened around the clipboard. Before she could think, before she could step away, tap, tap, tap. The sound came from inside the room. Not banging, not scratching, just gentle tapping, slow and patient, like someone testing whether the door was locked. Tatenda's throat went dry. A red emergency light flickered at the end of the hallway, casting a soft crimson glow across the door. For a moment, the metal looked wet. The tapping stopped. Tatenda leaned in, holding her breath. Silence. She backed away quickly, her shoes squeaking softly against the floor. She did not look back as she walked away, but she felt it, the feeling of being watched. The first hours of the shift passed slowly. Patients slept. Machines beeped in steady rhythms. Tatenda checked vitals, wrote notes, and tried to ignore the tight feeling in her chest. At 10:12 p.m., she found herself standing outside patient 44's room again. She did not remember walking there. The door was open. Her heart skipped. Inside, the bed was empty. The restraints hung loose, twisted and stretched as if someone had pulled against them for a long time. The sheets were smooth, untouched, too perfect, except for the mattress. A deep human-shaped impression pressed into it. The shape of shoulders, arms, legs, as if someone was still lying there unseen. The heart monitor beside the bed showed a flat line, but it continued to beep. Beep, beep, beep. Each sound felt wrong, like a lie being repeated. Cold fog crept slowly from beneath the bed, rolling across the floor and curling around Tatenda's shoes. Her feet went numb. "No," she whispered. "No, no!" She stepped back, but her legs felt heavy, slow, like she was moving through water. She raised her flashlight and stepped into the room. The beam cut through the darkness. It landed on the bed. Someone was sitting on it, facing the wall, not moving. The shape of him was thin, too thin. His back did not rise or fall with breath. His shadow stretched across the wall and crawled onto the ceiling, bending at strange angles that made her dizzy. "Sir?" Tatenda whispered. The figure turned his head. His face was pale, almost translucent, like wax stretched too thin. His eyes were black and empty, reflecting no light. His mouth hung open slightly, frozen mid-scream. Veins beneath his skin glowed faintly, pulsing slowly, like something alive was moving inside him. The light flickered. He did not blink. Tatenda slammed the door shut and ran. She reached the nurse's station, hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the surveillance remote. She turned on the monitor. The screen glitched. Patient 44 stood in the corner of his room. The timestamp jumped forward. He stood closer to the door. Another flick. He was beside the bed. Another flick. He was staring directly into the camera. His movements were unnatural, jerking between positions without walking. Tatenda covered her mouth to stop the scream rising in her chest. The camera switched. Now it showed the hallway behind her. Patient 44 stood there, right behind her. She spun around. The hallway was empty. Her breath came in sharp gasps. Tears blurred her vision. The lights down the corridor exploded one by one. Pop, pop. At the far end of the hallway, a silhouette appeared. Patient 44. His head turned slowly, twisting far past what a human neck could allow. A deep rumbling filled the air, vibrating through the walls, through her bones. Tatenda ran. The corridor stretched endlessly. Shadows crawled along the walls beside her. Gurneys rolled on their own, crashing into doors. Whispers filled the air. Tatenda! Her name came from everywhere. Nowhere! She burst into patient 44's room again. The lights flickered wildly. The bed lifted from the floor. Patient 44 rose into the air, limbs bent outward like broken strings. Sheets spiraled around him as black smoke poured from an open cavity in his chest. Strange symbols burned into the floor beneath him. He leaned forward. His breath was icy, fogging the air. His lips moved too fast, whispering words that scraped against her thoughts. "I died," he whispered. "They said I died, but I was still here." The hospital screamed. Tatenda ran. Red emergency lights flashed. Walls stretched and warped. Doors slammed shut. Ghostly hands pushed through the walls, grabbing at her uniform. She fell. Above her, patient 44 crawled on the ceiling, his head facing the wrong way. His fingers scraped against concrete, sparks raining down. Lightning struck outside. Through a window, she saw the hospital surrounded by storm clouds. Every window glowed. Shadows moved inside them, all together, watching. A file slammed onto a desk in front of her. Patient 44, time of death 02-113, am still breathing. The pages flipped violently. Ink oozed like black blood. The floor dropped. She was in the morgue. Drawers slid open one by one. Empty, empty. The last one opened slowly. Patient 44 lay inside, smiling. The hallway melted. Dark water flooded the floor. His reflection stood behind her. The wall cracked open. He crawled out, skin peeling, eyes empty. She ran into the operating theater. He sat in a wheelchair under flickering lights. Tools shook. "You stayed," he whispered. "So now you remain." Suddenly, dawn. Tatenda stood outside the hospital, trembling. She looked back at the glass doors. Patient 44 smiled in the reflection. Waiting, and inside Parirenyatwa Hospital, the night shift began again.